I'm really good.
You're standing on my head, eh?
Sorry about that.
Good day, hi, and welcome. Alright, World War III update. Well, looks like things are definitely heating up in a lot of areas as normal, but looks like there's now more, conclusively concrete, irrefutable evidence that the Russians are really making a push in Syria there. What they're doing, well, my take on it is, because the funny thing is the Russians could expose the whole thing by just explaining to people what people probably already know anyway, that most of these jihadi groups are U.S. proxies. And because of that, they could just say, just create the destabilization at home. But I think there's another angle. I think they're using that angle. Right now, they're going to be using it in the long run to defend Iran. Now, it's a little bit tricky to kind of get the concept here, but it does make sense if you think about it in that way. And I'll explain as I go. So what we have now, we know there's an Akula typhoon sitting off the coast of Syria, which again is its own sovereign nation, it's the largest, most powerful nuclear submarine on the planet. One of these things is pretty much has enough fire power to strategically destroy the world if each of its 200 warheads could be strategically placed around the planet. It could probably wipe out humanity as we know it. And then, of course, even with that, just the firepower from torpedoes, it's got enough torpedoes on it to sink the average nation's navy. It could sink almost one of these submarines have enough torpedoes to sink almost a full navy. So think about it. That's a lot of power. So this is going on at the same time that we have MiG-31s patrolling the sky. We had, 4 or 6 of those that were delivered. And we know there were some MiG-29s, about 16 of those last year or the year before that were delivered. We know there's now 4 S-300 missile systems that have gone into Iran, which you might as well say will be protecting Assad too, because of the range of the S-300 missile system, which is a couple hundred kilometers. And now we have in one of the strongholds where Bashar al-Assad is, it looks like there's 6 T-90 tanks. So something I said in the past said, watch the Russians start arming people up left, right, and center. If I'm slurring my words, it's because I got a bit of a sore throat, so you'll have to bear with me. It's not that I speak that well anyway, so. But yeah, you can see now this is something that the Russians have been doing for a long time, is backing Assad. That's nothing new. There's no how this is played out as news in the mainstream media down there in the States is basically via propaganda. It's demonization of Russia, but they were there all the time, openly admitted. There's no covert operation there. It's what they've been doing. The next thing is they've also, now I'm not sure exactly what type of gunship helicopters, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be like Heinz and stuff like that. A lot of times the Russians will send a lot of their older stuff in to back this regime, that regime, whatever. But they do have some pretty sophisticated stuff in there, such as the S-300 missile system and Su-24 or 34s, as well as the T-90s. So these are more modern equipment. So I don't think they would be sending these there unless they really needed the best of the best in there. So that said, I've also heard rumors that strikes have already begun against ISIS and ISIS supporters, which Free Syrian Army, ISIS, same thing. For the most part, same thing, right? Yeah, they're slightly different, but they're both going for the same goal. So it's overthrow Assad. Now, the priority for the United States is to overthrow Assad. They don't care about the Syrian refugees. They don't care about stopping ISIS. They care about overthrowing Assad. Now, a lot of people still can't grasp that concept. They're like, no, they would never do this. But you're not looking at it the way some of the CIA whistleblowers have come out and said, hey, look, we analyzed this whole situation before they went into Libya, and this was what the outcome would have been. And they said, no, this would have been a bad idea. We recommend against it because it'll just lead to the destabilization of the Middle East and everything will burn, like Gaddafi said. But they went ahead and did it anyway. So this was the plan all along. Everything is going according to plan. Now, the Russians, what I'm thinking what they're doing by using this to get their guys into play is that And there seems to be, the word on the vine is that a lot of nations seem to have been getting ready to strike in a major offensive in Syria. But that offensive was most likely going to be against Assad. Of course, they'd say, no, it's against the Islamic State, but it's not. And we know Israel has been out there testing dirty bombs, this past summer, which is still kind of technically summer, but they've been testing dirty bombs in the desert. Now, here's the thing. You have Israel out there saying, oh my God, Iran might get a nuclear bomb, and this is bad, but they're testing dirty nukes in the desert. So, yeah, anyway, you guys, I'll let you guys chew on that one. So, with that going on, Israel was also talking about doing a preemptive strike on Iran, possibly in October, or so around that time. They've been talking about it for a long time, but with the deal that, and I guess maybe the Russians have already picked up on it, hence why they're jumping into action, is that although you keep hearing how bad of a deal deal with Iran between the U.S. and Iran is, how bad of a deal it is, a lot of people have missed the fact, and even some of the good news is the people that are speaking out against it, okay, are probably the people that have no idea what's really going on. It is a guarantee to go to war. That deal's a guarantee. It looks like we're giving Iran everything and lifting sanctions and giving them this and giving them that. But at the end of the day, it's in the devil's in the details, the fine print. If Iran steps out of line, the United States gets the right to preemptively strike Iran, meaning they would use that, and it'd be impossible for Iran to comply with these sanctions or this treaty. So if they went out of bounds, of course, right away, Israel can go in and strike them, and the United States has all the blessings of the United States. They can then back Israel, and then that'll be it for Iran. Now, mind you, I don't think Iran would go down quietly, because Iran is a lot better prepared than, say, Saddam was. But that said, I don't think Iran would stand very long against the United States in a regular military, but it would just end up like Iraq. It would just be another war-torn country with a lot of dead people in it and a mass amount of refugees, and the Mad Max world that it would be. But the thing is now that the Russians are in there, you got to watch where you're throwing your bombs now. And this is what's, the U.S. is getting upset about, is that, again, they don't really have a counter argument to why we would be against the Russians going against the Islamic State. And the only counter that comes out from the U.S. is basically the State Department, is that they may accidentally kill proxies that are, fighting Assad. So in other words, they want to protect the Free Syrian Army. But the problem is the Free Syrian Army and ISIS are so intertwined that there's no difference between the two of them. So what they're really telling you is, we just want to overthrow Assad. We don't want to stop the Islamic State. So the rest of the world is taking note of this. Now, a little thing happened in Australia. Apparently Australia, from what I was understanding, and maybe this is propaganda, maybe this is not, but what they were saying was they were getting ready to put boots on the ground with the U.S. and the United Kingdom and et cetera, in Syria. And it looks like they got regime change over there in Australia. Now, I don't know much about the new person, but from what I hear, new boss is the same as the old boss. The one thing is, on this side, they're kind of more backing the Russians. So that could be a good thing in a way, to see that people are no longer following U.S. foreign policy. And I hope here in Canada we take that approach too, because the thing is if the Russians are willing to take the brunt of the stick to go and kill the Islamic State, there's really no counter-argument to that. It's like, okay, so you've got Assad's army, and you've got the Islamic State, or Assad's army, who are the best equipped and best set up to fight the Islamic State, providing NATO's not bombing them, and you've got the Russians backing them. You couldn't ask for a much more effective force than that. Plus, they're taking the cost of this. They're taking the cost of manpower. They're doing it, and really there is no counter to it. Now, are they doing it for the good of the people? No, I think they're doing it again more for empire. I mean, when you're looking at Russia and the United States from their government points of view, this is all empirism. Same with China, it's all empirism. So they're all kind of doing the same thing. It's like this new world order versus that new world order, that type of thing. And they're all doing it for their own interest. So with the Russians, what I'm thinking they're doing is they're setting up to take out the Islamic State, so that Israel basically will not be able to strike Iran. And why that'll happen is simply put, there'll be too many Russian assets in the area to be, for Israel to go around. It'd be too dangerous for them to do it. Now, the Russians haven't threatened Israel openly, but they do have an Akula typhoon off the coast, which does appear there from time to time. We know in 2010 they did a warhead test with the Akula typhoon. Most people thought it was a UFO they were seeing in the sky. No, that's what a reentry of a, basically warhead from a ballistic missile. The cone does like a swirling thing to stabilize as it's coming in, and it leaves a big trail of gas. Looks like a big spiral in the sky. Anytime you see these things in the sky, a missile test was conducted there. There was one conducted, I think, off of not Norway, but out in that area there. And they basically, in a nutshell, didn't know what it was. Most people don't know what it is, but once you know what it is, you spot them all over the world. These are basically ballistic missile tests. And we know that Israel has been basically arming and training, as well as the United States have been arming and training these jihadi groups for years now. 4,000 of them were trained up by the U.S. Army Rangers, I guess, in Jordan. I think it was the Army Rangers. The group al-Baghdadi was one of in with that group, and he said, "Thanks for the training. When we're done here, we'll see you in Washington." So again, we arm the people we fight in the future. But also, the Mossad has been training up the Free Syrian Army and stuff. But remember, Israel wants to overthrow Assad. That's the number one priority. And that's, again, Obama said it. More important that he overthrows Assad or gets rid of the Islamic State. And it seems that overthrowing Assad keeps coming to the front. So all your propaganda now against Russia is that, they're secretly arming Assad's guys and stuff like that. But there's a couple of spins you got to look at it. Number one, they're not secretly doing it. They've been talking, these are agreements that go back a long time. Now maybe they're just coming to the aid at a kind of a strange time. We do know that the interest rates in the United States, surprise, surprise, they didn't raise the interest rates again in the United States. Are you really, really, really surprised on that? No, I don't think so. So we know that the economies are getting rougher around the world everywhere. Our economy here in Canada, we got a balanced budget, and we're running a $1 billion plus surplus. So we're in a better position than just about anybody. But because of the mountain climber effect of globalism, when one falls, we kind of all fall. Well, this boxes the U.S. economy in again by now. When they're in there with the Russians, and if Russian troops get killed by U.S. bombs, they're going to shoot back. That's the whole thing that makes it so dangerous, is that this is different from the Ukraine. It's different from anywhere. This is a bit of a black swan because Hezbollah fighting alongside Assad's guys, fighting alongside Russians. Okay, yeah, you could say Hezbollah and Assad, are proxy. But when you have Russian soldiers there, they're going to be shooting at U.S. soldiers. They're going to be, they'll be shooting at their proxies first, but eventually they will be shooting at U.S. soldiers and other coalition soldiers. Now in Egypt, it looks like Egypt and Russia, again, Egypt I think is switching sides, just not openly. Now, they're basically going to be doing a paratrooper drill in the next couple of weeks. Now this paratrooper drill, if you think about it, with everything that if you've been following this channel, again, let's recap. You've got MiG-31s, very high altitude interceptors and good patrol airplanes. You've got Su-34s, very sophisticated electronic warfare ground attack airplanes. Also good at anti-shipping. You've got, gunship helicopters such as probably the Hind 24 and maybe some Black Sharks in there, but Hind 24 is most likely. So that's going to be close support aircraft right there. Now you've only got 6 T-90s coming in this week, but they've been also dropping, again, the S-300 missile system. So you have, and then the Akula Typhoon, you have air, land, and sea covered. And on top of that, they've been doing basically the Russians have been doing 2 drops a day in Syria of weapons and support and stuff like that. I still think the Russians are going to fight it basically, as advisors, kind of like the same thing, we're doing, where we're not really taking our guys aren't really on the front line, so to speak, but what they are is they're advising the guys up near the front line, right? So, well, the Russians are going to play the same game, but they're also, again, how much stuff are they going to bring in? Today it's 6 T-90s, maybe tomorrow it's another 6, and another 6, and another 6, and another 6. The Russians typically use their fly 6 aircraft. They'll fly, run 6 tanks. It's just kind of how their formations work out and stuff like that. So with the special forces and stuff like that backing Assad's guys, this is going to make it hell for the Free Syrian Army. Again, the Russians, these are it's a professional military. I'm not saying Assad's guys aren't professional, but they're definitely not to the standard of the Russians at all. I mean, the Russians are, some people might laugh at their military in some respects, because some of their guys can be kind of a bit wombat and out of control and drunk and stuff like that. But for the whole, the Russians are pretty well trained. I mean, these guys, they know anti-terrorism, they know counterterrorism, they know how to fight proxies. They really do know that stuff very well. They're as good at it as the U.S. is. So now that we know that there's a standoff could appear at some point, the question for people around the world is becoming more of, why aren't we supporting the Russians taking out ISIS? The Russians keep coming out saying, hey, look, these airstrikes, they don't work. They're not working at all. And the proof is kind of in the pudding, because after 6,500 airstrikes, the Islamic State is still getting bigger. So, we arm them on one side and pretend to blow them up on the other. So, there's a lot of dirty stuff going on there. We don't know how dirty this thing really gets, but we know that if the U.S. really wanted ISIS gone, they would have them gone in a couple of weeks. At worst. So the idea that they're able to move around, I'm thinking you're going to see a lot of burning U.S. tanks and that were left over. So there's 70 tanks that those T-90s are probably going to go out and destroy. And then they got, it's going to be a turkey shoot for the Humvees, because T-90 trumps Humvee. So they're going to take those out. So next thing you know, they're going to demobilize the Islamic State pretty quickly with air power. I'm not saying that the Hind 24s can't get shot down. God knows they have. Remember, when Chris Stevens got killed in Libya, there was a weapons deal apparently for 25,000 man-pad launchers, meaning surface-to-air missiles. So this the reason why I think the Su-34s are prowling in Syria is to jam those missile systems. Basically, the older aircraft that like Assad has, like the MiG-23s and the MiG-21s, will be able to fly in areas, and then if somebody fires one of these man-pad launchers at them, you can jam the signal. I mean, the Russians would know how to jam it. They built it, right? So they jam the signal, the other airplane gets a chance to do its attack, and they pull out of there. So that's another thing that's going to be, we'll have to watch. But I'm thinking that what we're going to probably see is, again, just a slow kind of hold the line. But again, this also keeps the line back, so this keeps other troops out. So this is how it protects Iran, because we know they can't attack Iran until basically they overthrow Assad. Now, Assad has come out and said, hey, look, if the people decide that they don't want him anymore, he will go. But he will not go because of outside external forces, meaning the U.S. and Israel want him to step down. He will not. It's up to the people. Now let's go look at what's happening over there in Hungary and Serbia and all that. Well, hey, it looks like they're basically shutting down their borders. So you keep hearing on the mainstream media, well, like here in Canada, the poor refugees, the poor refugees, the poor refugees. Which, okay, yes, most people who have any sense of decency can say, yeah, these poor people are fleeing a Mad Max world. They're either going to get bombed by coalition forces, which God knows how many people have died in airstrikes by now. I mean, out of 6,500 airstrikes, you're telling me no civilians were hit? Yeah, right. We can look at Iraq, we can look at Libya, we can look anywhere there's ever been coalition airstrikes. There's always a huge, huge human cost. And the thing too is that we also know that these people, okay, they're if they don't get bombed, they're going to possibly be killed or beheaded by ISIS, or one of the or Al-Nusra Front or which other Al Qaeda, pick one of the jihadi groups, right? There's 10, 20 different jihadi groups in there. It's just the most noticed is the ISIS. Now, ISIS is an ideology. Remember that. That's why it encumbers so many jihadi groups. And because it encumbers so many jihadi groups, it's hard to tell one from the next. But all you really need to know is where the weapon's coming from. And then once you figure that out, you figure out who's backing who. And it's pretty clear and openly admitted by several, the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, saying, yeah, we gave money to Saudi Arabia through the CIA to buy weapons to arm the people in Libya to fight Assad. But the other thing, too, you have to look at is, number one, why are we fighting Assad in the first place? Oh, because he's a dictator and he's a tyrant. Donald Trump pulls out a good one. Well, what about North Korea? If we're really worried about, we're worried about Iran, who might get the bomb, and North Korea, who has several. So, we're the priorities, right? Personally, I think we should just back off all these countries. We don't need to be in the Middle East. We're only there because of Israel. A lot of people say, oh, you're Israel bashing. You're an anti-Semite. You hate Jews. I don't hate Jews. I have nothing against Jews. That type. I do pick on the supremacy movement of the Zionists, sure. But look, apparently, and I didn't watch the debate, but one thing that Steve Green from AMTV was saying is that during debate, well, no, not him, it was somebody else, Ramsey Paul, that's who it was. Anyway, he was saying, he says, the whole debate was about how much we have to protect Israel, how much we have to do this for Israel. Israel's our best friend. And every time I hear Israel's our best ally in the Middle East, I ask why. And nobody can give you an answer to that. Here's a country that's out there, not playing well with others. They have to learn how to live with others there. And okay, if they want to protect their borders, sure, I support them. If Hezbollah fires rockets at them, sure, they can do airstrikes against Hezbollah, fine. But the thing is why do we need to be involved in it? That's the whole question. Now, the other answer is that the religious faction obviously will do anything for Israel no matter what, because Israel can do no wrong, because it's biblical, right? But even at that, you can even argue on the religious side that, hey, wait a minute, who are the first Israelites? And that debate, trust me, goes all over the place. Some people say it's the Ethiopians. Some people say it's you get the idea. So, but it comes back to the same thing. Why are we there in the first place? We don't need to be there. And maybe if we weren't there, Israel would play much better with other people. They wouldn't be preemptively striking everybody else. Yes, Iran has been yelling death to Israel. And I don't support Iran, the Iranian government, any more than I support the Israeli or the American or even my Canadian government in this thing. The thing is that the Iranians, yeah, sure, they've been yelling death to Iran for about as long as Israel has been doing preemptive strikes in there. So who's better, right? So, but the thing is, until Iran actually does something, preemptive strike is an excuse to go to war indefinitely. That's the whole thing, right? So the Russians know this. They know that if Assad falls, Iran is next. And remember, the Russians have those gas line deals through Syria, through Turkey, to Iran, and then probably through Pakistan. I can imagine they'll make a deal with them and then move right into China. And next thing you know, you have a whole bunch of countries in the Middle East that will be prospering very well with Russia and China. And that will be a threat to Israel. And the main reason why Israel wants Iran off the map, it's mainly due to the fact that in all those areas, it's only Iran that really has its own, weapons program. Yes, Turkey has a weapons program, so does Saudi Arabia, but those are on the other side of the fence, right? So, and we know Saudi Arabia and Turkey want to get rid of Assad as well. Pretty much every country in the Middle East hate each other, right? The government-wise. So they all want to knock each other off. But at the end of the day, again, should we be in there? I say let the Russians do what they want. I say let them go in. I'm not saying Vladimir Putin is right. What I'm saying is when we're looking at all these poor Syrians and it's not just Syrians, it's the people from sub-Saharan Africa as well. They're like flooding into Europe and stuff like that because it's open to the Syrians. And of course they know that if they say they're Syrian, say I lost my passport and say they're Syrian, they might get a better life. So you can't really find fault with that. What you can find fault with is that the governments, like they did in the States, John Kerry did the same thing. He went visited in South America, and then he basically, right after that, they start sending down DHS agents to go start picking up basically illegals in South America and bring them up to the United States, again, to basically, flood the United States with illegals. Okay, now that said, well, that's exactly what's happening here with the migrant crisis. And it looks like our favorite friend is in the mix somewhere again, too. Yep, you figured it out. George Soros, yeah, his money is there. He's supporting this. He always does. Almost all the stuff that is caused in the world is caused by these people. Kissinger, Soros, whole Rothschild banking system. It's always the same players. Follow the money, you figure it out. So it also comes out in France that there was a delegate who was buying rafts for the refugees. So I think right after that comes out, we see Turkey saying, "Oh, screw this." They're literally trying to destroy Europe. Now, again, I'm not saying Syrian people are bad people. Again, most of these people, you know, the ones with the women and kids, women and children and stuff like that. You know, most of those people are pretty much on the up and up. Okay, but yeah, there's a lot of young males of fighting age that are coming in that are worried. And for you get all the lefties on TV. These people, well, they're clinically brain dead anyway. They're only progressives can only think as well as you tell them. You know, it's literally that. I'm sorry if you're a progressive out there, but think about this. Oh well, crimes against humanity. We have to help the people. We have to take in here in Canada, in Saskatchewan, they're going to be taking taking on a whole bunch of Syrian refugees. That's not going to help it. That's not going to help it because that's not the root cause of the problem. You know, it's why are there refugees? Well, there's refugees because you got ISIS and coalition forces. You have a war going on in Syria. That's why there's refugees. But why is this war going on? Because they keep arming the bad guys, i.e. the proxy groups. Russia has pointed this out. If they would stop arming the proxy groups, we wouldn't have to intervene. And when we're looking at it like that, okay, yeah, of course people are going to flood out of the country. But a lot of those people would just love to go back home. I mean, if you were them, you'd be doing the exact same thing. So I get that. But that said, when people are encouraging them to take these dangerous trips across the Mediterranean by buying them the rafts, and there was a French delegate, I can't remember what her name was or whatever. But anyway, yeah, there she is, aiding, human trafficking. But it's the worst part is that how many people have died thinking they can make it. This is the thing. It's killed more people than it needed to. Whereas if you shut your borders right away and you say, hey, no, you can't come here, they don't. Case in point, for anybody that's going to yell the racist and bigot mark, not one mainstream media has brought up the fact that Israel does not have its borders open. And that's a lot closer to go than it is for them to get to Europe, and a lot safer. Now some of the people are saying, the Syrian refugees saying, well, the camps in Turkey, they don't have anything, like they can't take care of us. Okay, that's fair. So okay, and Israel has its border closed because, well, we don't know who's coming in, and maybe it's possible that some of the Islamic terrorists might come in, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but isn't that the same claim that they're making in Europe? But yeah, they did. I will say the mainstream media did talk about Qatar and United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia not opening their doors. Mind you, these are the countries that are in on it. And I think Jordan may have taken in a few refugees, but they've now closed their doors, said we did all we can. Okay, fair enough. But does that mean they should be flooded to Europe? Well, again, people are encouraging them to go. That's the problem. And when you figure out who's encouraging them to go, which I think what might be the play there is that the European Union is dead and done. Same as the US dollar. It's dead and done. They're kicking the can down the road, sure, and again, we see they're doing it again today with the U.S. interest rates. They're not going to raise them because they know that if they do, they'll implode the economy. But it's insolvent. People are starting to notice that they're becoming gradually more poor. So the best thing to do is find the scapegoat. Oh, all the countries backed out of the European Union because it folded because of the migrant crisis. So that gets the bankers off scot-free. Nations get to collapse. Again, the bankers aren't going to take the fall for this. They will do anything to not take the fall for this. Again, all wars are bankers' wars. All these crises are because of what these bankers have done. And of course, they're probably going to get away with it. But however, there's a possibility they might not. Right now, I think the world is so exposed that, we keep hearing, people come out in the conspiracy crowd going, oh, people need to wake up, people need to wake up. Everybody's awake. Here's my case in point. Right here in Canada, we're having an election, okay? And the number one issue is the economy. That's it. That's the number one issue. That's all people care about in Canada, okay? Now, do they care about the economy because the economy is doing so great? No, they care about the economy because it's fragile. Now, most people in Canada know exactly how the economy is playing out here. It's better than most countries. It's, we can still fall. We still haven't hit our 2008 collapse yet. Yeah, that's true. Canada was one of the only countries in 2008 that didn't suffer the massive hit. We went into recession, And we're arguing now whether we're in a recession. Again, it's a technical recession. So technical recession is not bad times. It's we have to, kind of think about whether we are. So it's okay. We're in one, but we're not really noticing it. So that doesn't mean that we're in this clear and clear to go. Well, what it does mean is that we know where we are. We know that we're in a spot that, hey, we're doing okay, but that could change. That can change really fast. So we're looking at our candidates here, and one's talking about how he's going to balance the budget in 4 years by spending $10 billion minimum per year over the budget. So first, to stimulate the economy, because it's growing, but it's not growing fast enough. So we're going to go into debt. That's theory that's candidate number one, and that's Justin Trudeau. Candidate number two, okay, we're going to tax and spend. Basically, we're going to have so many we're going to have social programs for social programs, but we're going to tax you to death. Don't worry, when you die, we'll pass those taxes on to your next of kin. That type of thing. That's option number two, and that's the NDP with Thomas Mulcair. And then Harper, option number three, or the defending option. Keep doing what we're doing. We kept the ship off the rocks, and the economies around the world are doing horrible. So a mismanagement of the economy. I still say it's the lesser of evils when we're talking about, talking about the Canadian economy. The Canadian economy, again, technically, it's growing again a bit. We're at a surplus, so at least when we fall, okay. At least when we fall, we have a long way to fall, rather than we're already at the bottom of the barrel and we can't go any lower. And this is the problem with the states: is the debt is the debt. It's not like Obama says, well, the debt isn't the debt. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything. It means your retirement. It means all that stuff. The trick here is the liabilities, and it's these liabilities. I mean, you have something like 10,000 in the States, about 10,000 retirees per day. We're at an aging demographic pretty much globally. The average median age in Canada is in their 40s. I can't remember the exact age. Same in the United States. The average median age is in the 40s, meaning people are getting closer to retirement. And right now, the baby boomer generation is pretty much retired. Now the problem is as the economy gets worse, retirements are going to disappear. So all of a sudden you're going to have this aging population that nobody can pay for. And that tells you one thing and one thing only: time to start another war. But the Russians they're putting, this is a big stick they're putting down. They're really drawing a line in the sand here, saying, yes, we're going to back Assad. So when they're backing Assad, think about it this way: when coalition forces are flying around, oh, there's an Assad tank, we can just go ahead and bomb it and take it out. Now they have to question whether they're going to start an international incident and possibly start the Third World War by killing Russians. That type of thing. I don't think the Russians are going to be as courteous on the other side. I think anything that yells Allahu Akbar, they're going to shoot at. And if there's coalition forces beside that, they're going to shoot at them too. So again, the Russians are really, really putting a squeeze wedge here of saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to let Assad fall. We're not going to let Iran fall. And, people, again, looking at the leader debates, when all you hear about is Israel this, Israel that, when you have an $18 trillion deficit, it's like, again, why is there so much devotion to Israel in the first place? Why? I wouldn't have any devotion to any of the Middle Eastern countries. All the governments there are corrupt, every single one of them. I have nothing against the people, but their governments are completely long back crazy. So that said, should we even be in there? That's the first question. Should we even be in there? Now, again, the butterfly effects of U.S. foreign policy. Again, I'm not picking on the American people. I'm picking on the policy. It's very, very clear. The Assad regime was the number one priority to overthrow him. If we go back to the protests of 2010, from the Syrian protests, everything was kind of under control. Yeah, some people got their heads cracked by the Assad troops. Sure, granted, yes, he was a dictator, he was an evil man, but there was no civil war until, insane McCain comes along and starts meeting up with his favorite jihadi buddies, like al-Baghdadi and a couple other ones. And basically, they started arming them. And they knew right away. Again, CIA whistleblowers have come out and said, yes, we knew this was a bad idea from the get-go, but the State Department went ahead and did it anyway. And the thing is who in the State Department authorized this? How high does this go? It goes beyond the president, because the president, again, if anything, on the to get an idea of what's going on in the states, the GOP thing. One thing that you have to understand is, and this is a point that was made, and I thought it was quite well made, when Donald Trump said, something about North Korea being a bigger threat than Iran, or something along that lines, because I didn't see it, just going by what somebody else said. Well, saying that to like Jeb Bush or whatever. So why isn't North Korea a big a big deal? Well, it's simple. Israel, there's a lot of campaign funding from the Israeli lobby, right? So that's the interest. That's the interest group that's in there. That's what the neocons are. They're an interest group for the Israeli lobby. They're all wars for Israel. All wars are bankers' wars. But if we look at who owns the banks, it's the Zionists. So when we're looking at it like that, people could call you anti-Semite, they call you this, they call you that, and that's fine. But you can't do this without pointing out the obvious. And I think a lot of countries are coming to the conclusion that, hey, wait a minute, we can't follow these bankers or their death and destruction plan around anymore. They're going to get us all killed. So I'll be interested to see what happened in Australia. Why now they're kind of switch sides on the issue, which is a good side. Like, I mean, if Vladimir Putin called up Prime Minister Harper and said, "Hey, do you want to do a joint strike with us against the Islamic State? We'll share intelligence, whatever. We'll do whatever, and we'll work together. We'll handle the Ukraine as a separate issue." And but for now we'll just get priorities, get rid of Islamic State. And my prime minister, if he were to say no, I would question that. I'd say, okay, what's the we really want to get those guys dealt with, right? So I think we all know now for sure that it's pretty clear that and there's again, anybody that doesn't believe it, I mean, you're just not paying attention. There's more than enough whistleblowers. There's more than enough jihadis who've told you who's trained them and where they've gotten their weapons. It's just, it's the same old, right? So we know that the number one goal is to overthrow Assad. Screw the refugees, screw the Syrians. Basically, we're overthrowing Assad, and until he's gone, and they're not going to come in and rebuild the country. Again, these coalition forces, we don't go back and rebuild these countries. Oh, we put in a couple of wells, maybe build a couple of schools, but we don't really rebuild the countries. If we rebuilt Iraq, no. If we rebuilt Afghanistan, no. Are we going to? Absolutely not. So we destroy these countries, but we never rebuild them. And the idea that everybody that we kill there is a terrorist is just completely ridiculous. Again, we're looking at 4 million displaced people, okay, in the Middle East, minimum. Okay, we're 1 million refugees, over 200,000 dead in Syria, 1.5 million dead in Iraq. I think it's time to question U.S. foreign policy. Is Israel worth that much death and destruction? And we have to bring the Israelis on it because, again, you can follow them. They have said their plans several times. All they care about is overthrowing Iran, and they can't do it with Syria in the way. And people say, well, yeah, but the Syrians, evil regime, they use barrel bombs. Yeah, those barrel bombs, like, they're as effective as the 500-pounders, right? It's just, I laugh every time I hear a mainstream person talk about barrel bombs. I guess they figure everybody has the mind of a 2-year-old. They really must think everybody's that stupid. It's like barrel bomb. And again, I'd be like, okay, what, did they run out of conventional bombs? Is that what they resorted to? They need help then, And not only that, they're dropping barrel bombs on the Islamic State. They're dropping on jihadis. They're trying to kill the jihadis. Does it really matter the method? Kill them. I mean, these are really dangerous people. So, anyway, I guess we'll have to watch and see what happens. I'll leave it at about that. But we are, again, the Russians, they're showing their hand and calling. They're doing a bluff call right now. So, I don't know how this is going to really react on the world stage in the sense of economy-wise, but I think it's going to squeeze things a little bit tighter. But I'm also thinking that this is probably an open plan from the get-go to make it, again, anybody that's out there willing to fight the Islamic State, what argument do you have against them? And the only people that have an argument right now is really the United States government, saying that they're going to destabilize the area. So airstrikes have stabilized the area. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. They don't have an argument against the Russians right now. And I'm not saying the Russians are the good guys. The Russian government is, trust me, just as bad or worse than the U.S. government. But when we're looking at it from the crisis point of view of the refugees and stuff like that, again, you can listen to the refugees themselves. They're not running away from Assad. They're running away from the Islamic State, and they're running away from the coalition airstrikes. That's what they're running from. Maybe the odd one will, yeah, I hate Assad, sure, but they're going to tell you, yeah, well, I don't like Assad. I didn't vote for him. I won't vote for him. But on the other hand, Free Syrian Army and ISIS on one side, with the coalition forces bombing us. I mean, yeah, I mean, what choice would you make? It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. Oh, and you can check out my WW3 updates Facebook page, and you can also, on Twitter, it's not Reg Me, and I just posted this video there, and you can go and check those out. You could also, if you have any links that you think are important, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to see them, because a lot of the stuff I get from you guys, so it does help, and it keeps us all in the loop together. So there we go. So have yourselves a great day.
Hey, how's it going, eh?
Really good.
You're standing on my head, eh?
Sorry about that.
Good day, hi, and welcome. Alright, World War III update. Well, looks like things are definitely heating up in a lot of areas as normal, but looks like there's now more, conclusively concrete, irrefutable evidence that the Russians are really making a push in Syria there. What they're doing, well, my take on it is, because the funny thing is the Russians could expose the whole thing by just explaining to people what people probably already know anyway, that most of these jihadi groups are U.S. proxies. And because of that, they could just say, just create the destabilization at home. But I think there's another angle. I think they're using that angle. Right now, they're going to be using it in the long run to defend Iran. Now, it's a little bit tricky to kind of get the concept here, but it does make sense if you think about it in that way. And I'll explain as I go. So what we have now, we know there's an Akula typhoon sitting off the coast of Syria, which again is its own sovereign nation, the largest, most powerful nuclear submarine on the planet. One of these things is pretty much has enough fire to power to strategically destroy the world if each of its 200 warheads could be strategically placed around the planet. It could probably wipe out humanity as we know it. And then, of course, even with that, just the firepower from torpedoes, it's got enough torpedoes on it to sink the average nation's navy. It could sink almost one of these submarines have enough torpedoes to sink almost a full navy. So think about it. That's a lot of power. So this is going on at the same time that we have MiG-31s patrolling the sky. We had, 4 or 6 of those that were delivered. And we know there were some MiG-29s, about 16 of those last year or the year before that were delivered. We know there's now 4 S-300 missile systems that have gone into Iran, which you might as well say will be protecting Assad too, because of the range of the S-300 missile system, which is a couple hundred kilometers. And now we have in one of the strongholds where Bashar al-Assad is, it looks like there's 6 T-90 tanks. So something I said in the past said, watch the Russians start arming people up left, right, and center. If I'm slurring my words, it's because I got a bit of a sore throat, so you'll have to bear with me. It's not that I speak that well anyway, so. But yeah, you can see now this is something that the Russians have been doing for a long time, is backing Assad. That's nothing new. There's no how this is played out as news in the mainstream media down there in the States is basically via propaganda. It's demonization of Russia, but they were there all the time, openly admitted. There's no covert operation there. It's what they've been doing. The next thing is they've also, now I'm not sure exactly what type of gunship helicopters, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be like Heinz and stuff like that. A lot of times the Russians will send a lot of their older stuff in to back this regime, that regime, whatever. But they do have some pretty sophisticated stuff in there, such as the S-300 missile system and Su-24 or 34s, as well as the T-90s. So these are more modern equipment. So I don't think they would be sending these there unless they really needed the best of the best in there. So that said, I've also heard rumors that strikes have already begun against ISIS and ISIS supporters, which Free Syrian Army, ISIS, same thing. For the most part, same thing, right? Yeah, they're slightly different, but they're both going for the same goal. So it's overthrow Assad. Now, the priority for the United States is to overthrow Assad. They don't care about the Syrian refugees. They don't care about stopping ISIS. They care about overthrowing Assad. Now, a lot of people still can't grasp that concept. They're like, no, they would never do this. But you're not looking at it the way some of the CIA whistleblowers have come out and said, hey, look, we analyzed this whole situation before they went into Libya, and this is what the outcome would have been. And they said, no, this would have been a bad idea. We recommend against it because it'll just lead to the destabilization of the Middle East and everything will burn, like Gaddafi said. But they went ahead and did it anyway. So this was the plan all along. Everything is going according to plan. Now, the Russians, what I'm thinking what they're doing by using this to get their guys into play is that there seems to be, the word on the vine is that a lot of nations seem to have been getting ready to strike in a major offensive in Syria. But that offensive was most likely going to be against Assad. Of course, they'd say, no, it's against the Islamic State, but it's not. And we know Israel has been out there testing dirty bombs, this past summer, which is still kind of technically summer, but they've been testing dirty bombs in the desert. Now, here's the thing. You have Israel out there saying, oh my God, Iran might get a nuclear bomb, and this is bad, but they're testing dirty nukes in the desert. So, yeah, anyway, you guys, I'll let you guys chew on that one. So, with that going on, Israel was also talking about doing a preemptive strike on Iran, possibly in October, or so around that time. They've been talking about it for a long time, but with the deal that, and I guess maybe the Russians have already picked up on it, hence why they're